sich Fabio. Ich kenne nicht so eine. Schwipps in der Ebel, Schwipps in dem Schuss, ja, mal immer auf Werks, bis ich, ne. Ja, wie das nicht, wie alle, wie. Ich mir alles nicht durch, ich bin schon lustig, ne, Fuß.
You might be confused. What was that intro? Why was it in reverse? And why did he tell us to follow, subscribe and like the video if you haven't even seen it yet? Well, this video is about Tenet, and if you've seen the movie, it makes total sense. Kidding, I mean, it should make sense. Well, anyway, weird intro, but here we are. You may be wondering, what's up with the fancy mustache? Well, a subscriber commented that he would only subscribe if I grew a mustache, so here we are. I hope you're happy. So, we're finally back in cinemas after what felt like an eternity because of the current situation, but whatever. The movie could have been better, could have been worse. There is no doubt that Christopher Nolan is an amazing filmmaker, but sometimes his writing doesn't live up to his lofty ideas. His movies are intriguing, mind-boggling, and sometimes so far out of the box that you are wondering what is happening on screen. Did I get it right? Did I not? And maybe that's exactly the reason why his movies end up being so confusing and convulsed at times. I will dive deeper into that later, but first a quick overview. I will cover a few aspects in this video. We'll talk about the music and the visuals, the action sequences, the action pieces, and I will analyze the plot, the characters and the dialogue. So here we go, let's get it started and pay attention because the movie was complicated and this will hopefully not be as complicated, but I try my best. Nolan knows his strengths and once again he delivered with amazing visuals. The sheer size of all the set pieces and knowing that he did as little with CGI as possible left me awestruck. Especially the entry scene at the opera had me hanging on the edge of my seat. There is hardly a scene in the cinema that had me so excited and I was so tense because somehow Nolan used the camera work to put the viewer right in the middle of the action. It felt like I was there with the characters running around. And what added to that excitement was how fast-paced the scene was, how in the dark the viewer was kept because I couldn't make heads or tails of what was happening. And then, underlined with Ludwig Göransson's amazing score, I was mind blown. I was like, wow, this will be the best movie ever. And unfortunately it wasn't, because the rest of the movie doesn't compare to this amazing entry scene, in my opinion. I'm not saying that the visuals or the action scenes or even the music were boring or dull for the rest of the film, but something in that opera scene was just above the rest, and it was disappointing that nothing that followed stood up to that level of excitement. The score was incredible, I loved it. However, sound-wise, the sound editing was weird. In a few dialogue scenes I couldn't really understand what the characters were saying because some sounds were too loud or the voices were too hushed. And especially in a movie as complicated as this, where you need to hear what the characters are saying to understand what's happening, it was kind of off-putting and distracting. I love the action scenes, especially the temporal pincer movement, where you saw how both teams moved forward and backward in time at the same time, and it must have been a real pain to shoot this scene. I can't wrap my head around how they managed to do that, but it was impressive and I loved it. Also, the car chase was slick, it looked cool. I love a good car chase. The scene with the plane did not hit the mark for me. I mean, it looked incredible and it's impressive what you can do if you want to do it, but somehow I felt like they just wanted to wreck a plane to say, hey guys, we wrecked a plane. And yeah, not really what I expected from it. The fight scenes between the inversed and not inversed, regular characters were fantastic. They looked and felt like futuristic dance sequences, and props to the choreographers and stunt team for pulling this off, because wow, I just sat there at the cinema wondering, how is this? Oh, what? Oh, why? Help! Now let's get to the interesting part, the plot. First of all, I have to say I love time travel. I love the concept of Groundhog Day, stuck in a loop, repeating the same day over and over again. And because of that, I tend to get a bit overcritical when it comes to movies like that. And so far, the only movie I really liked and think that did the time travel perfectly is Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban, because it just works and it's beautiful and amazing. And then there are TV shows like Doctor Who or Legends of Tomorrow who just say, look, we want time travel, we want fancy timey-wimey stuff, and ignore the rules and just have fun with it. And I'm cool with that. But as soon as a movie tries to be serious about it and then starts to make mistakes, I get irked. Avengers Endgame tries to be smart about it. They even make fun of other movies like Back to the Future, and then they mess it up completely. Will they fix their inconsistencies with introducing parallel timelines or alternate realities or whatever? I really do hope so, because the movie still makes me angry. And I pity the poor bastard who has to work out all those new plot holes or plot lines they just threw up in Endgame. Yeah, still not over this movie. I will never be over this movie. I just hope they tie up all those loose ends. Enough detours, back to Tenet. So they don't call it time travel in Tenet. They call it inversed entropy, but if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it probably is a duck. And fact is, they move forwards and backwards in time, so time travel. Nolan had some lofty aspirations with this movie, and I love his go big or go home attitude, and I love that he went big and didn't go home. Trying to make a movie around this concept is difficult, and Nolan decided to make it even harder for him and us watching it. The time flow changes multiple times throughout the movie by going forwards and backwards, and to add to the confusion, not all the characters go into the same direction at the same time. Are you still following me? Good, because the movie is even more complicated than that. Nolan even has a character played by Clémence Poésy say that don't try to understand it, just go with it. And I think that's a good advice for the viewer, because if you think too hard about it, you will miss a lot of important stuff and you won't be able to enjoy the movie. The plot itself, though, is very straightforward. An evil bad guy tries to destroy the world because he's rich and evil and bad. That's the main motivation, and it kind of makes sense because of all the complicated stuff he wrote around the plot. Or maybe he wrote the plot around the time travel concept, because that would make more sense. Half of the runtime, the movie makes little sense. Things happen, I experienced these things, and I was confused. Just like in regular life. However, once it becomes clear how the inversion works, and the main characters walk through the inversion chamber, everything made total sense to me. It did not. But now going back in time and revisiting the older scenes, I realized what was happening, it made sense to me, but the movie also became predictable and lost some of its drive, because knowing or having seen what's already happened and knowing what will happen made the movie predictable, and it started to feel like they were just checking off the boxes to make sure everything is working out. I mean, I loved seeing that everything made sense, but also I felt like, yeah, been there, done that. Up to that point, I loved the movie. It was exciting, it was fun, and it was smart. I loved the idea of a temporal pincer movement. I mean, never seen anything like it before. And it leaves you scratching your head about how it's actually working, like why is it working? But it makes sense. I thought about it a lot. Trust me, I did. And but what made the movie turn a bit sour for me was the ending. Up to this point, I was really enjoying the movie. I loved it. So far, it was established that everything that happens or will happen has already happened because of the rules of time and time travel. And it's even said that inversion only works with intention. But let's skip the debate about free will at this moment, because this review will already be long enough without me going on about whether free will matters or not, and if we can even change our future or if it's already set in stone. The protagonist was only able to fight himself in the plane hangar scene because his future self decides to invert himself. So if that hadn't happened, he wouldn't have fought himself, which would mean that the movie couldn't happen the way it did. It makes sense if you think about it, trust me. So this scene basically sets the precedent that time is fixed, you can't change anything because everything already has happened in some form or another. So the ending of the movie confused me because I missed one important scene. As I said, the whole movie says that time is fixed, everything that happens will happen because otherwise it can't happen. And in the end, spoiler alert, well, the whole video is full of spoilers, but here we go. You've been warned, this is the ending. Kat goes back in time to the yacht to kill Sator. And the whole time watching the scene, I had the impression that she killed Sator from the past. And if she had done that, the whole movie could not have happened because he would have been dead before everything happened. Sorry about that. And the scene that I missed was how Sator also went back to the past and also went back to the boat because he's dying and wants to relive his last happy memory with his wife. So, yeah, I thought she killed the past husband, but she killed the present husband and then jumped off the boat with the dead body, making her past self see her, realizing that her husband was having an affair, and in turn making her angry and estranged. And the irony of it all isn't lost to me. I mean, she basically ruined her marriage herself. But besides that, the movie works, and I am happy that a friend sent me the video by Heavy Spoilers, also a YouTuber, who explains the whole movie. And yeah, I thought I understood everything, but by missing this one important scene, I ruined the entire experience for me. And I'm embarrassed, but also happy that now that I get what I missed, I see how the movie makes total sense and is really thought out perfectly. There's still one thing that does not make complete sense to me, and it's Sator himself. He goes back to the past and meets Kat on the yacht. And something is completely off, and somehow he does not catch on. There are even bigger hints that the Kat he's talking to isn't the one he wanted to meet. But if he he knows about time travel and the rules, or how it works, so... Okay, I'm falling down the deep rabbit hole again, where it don't make sense. But anyway, I just think either he was okay with dying and setting off the end of the world, so that's why he didn't care that the cat he met on the yacht was behaving weirdly, but still, ugh, this scene drives me mad. It just doesn't feel right. So what doesn't work in this movie either, what doesn't work for me, is the dialogue and the characters. First I have to say the actors were amazing, especially Robert Pattinson, and anyone who doubts that he will be one of the best Batman ever is proven wrong, because this man has skill. Every movie he makes proves that. So please, stop hating on him. The dialogues are cliched and they just don't work. Especially the lines by John David Washington. He plays such a cool character, he's suave, he's a badass, and every 20-30 minutes or so, or even 10 minutes, he throws out one cheap, cheesy one-liner who breaks the entire flow of the movie and takes you out of it. And it would have been okay if that was the only issue, but also the dialogues between Debicki's character, Kat, and Brennan, who plays Sator, sound like something from a movie that came out 40-50 years ago. It just isn't contemporary, which also brings me to the main issue I have again with this movie, the female characters. Christopher Nolan does not know how to write female characters. I don't know why that is. It is a fact by now, and it's really sad. Kat, who is the only female protagonist, is reduced to a damsel in distress. I'm glad she isn't also just a love interest, but she's always suffering, and her whole character revolves around her trying to protect her son because she's a mother, and she mentions that in every other scene, and after a while it just becomes boring. And just because at the end, like, there was an attempt at some development, some change, she kills her abusive husband, but just because you make her do something good once, it doesn't really cancel out all the boring stuff that happened before. But in his favor, most characters in this movie don't have depth or a development arc. I mean, actually, come to think of it, there's really no change in any of the characters. Maybe the protagonist, but he just goes from not knowing what's happening to knowing what's going on. I think that's the problem with the movie. He was so preoccupied with trying to fit his amazing idea into a film that all the other points revolving the plot and the characters got lost on the way to the page. I don't know. And it's especially important with his movies, Nolan's movies, which always look so cool and sleek and are badass, that if you don't have characters to breathe life into it, the whole thing just feels dead. Maybe that's why I became indifferent, uninterested after a while. Because I was excited about what's happening, but not the characters. I didn't sympathize with any of them. I was in there hoping that the time travel works out, that he didn't make a mistake there. That's why I said the movie left a sour taste in my mouth. So, this is it. My many thoughts on Tenet. What a confusing movie. What a confusing video, I guess. Oh, have fun editing this. Anyway, at this point of the video, I should probably give you a recommendation, whether you should go watch it, whether you shouldn't watch it, and if you're a die-hard Nolan fan, go watch it. You will be happy. The movie will be amazing for you. If you love cinema, the movie will be an experience. Good, bad, who knows? It's one of the most anticipated movies this year, and to miss it on the big screen would be sad, because I'm happy I did see it. IMAX, not sponsored. However, for the casual moviegoer who watches like 1 or 2 movies in cinemas a year, that Tenet is probably one movie you should skip. It is confusing, it's long, and you will be scratching your head most of the times. and the friends who went with me found the movie straight up boring, and I can totally see where they're coming from. I left the movies with a sour taste in my mouth. As I told you, I missed the one important scene that would have explained everything, or would have made everything seem logical to me. So I will rewatch Tenet in a few months when it gets released on Blu-ray, just so I can make sure that the scene is actually there and pay closer attention that really everything works out the way it did, or does, or will. If you want spoiler-free ratings, follow my Insta, Fabio's Film Files. There I rate every movie I watch, because for YouTube I will only make videos about the movies I've seen in cinemas. Otherwise I would be sitting in front of this camera 24/7. Then I can watch movies, so I wouldn't be making videos. Anyway, yeah, if you want, you can follow my Instagram, and it will be in the description below. Thank you.
Ja, müssen glauben, oder?